Your brother needs it more, my parents said, forcing me to withdraw my $40,000 college fund for his business idea. They called me selfish for wanting an education. I didn't argue. I just smiled and made one phone call. The next morning, they were begging me to fix what I'd ruined. My name is Isabella Vasquez, and I learned that blood doesn't always mean family when my parents decided my dreams were worth less than my brother's whims. The college acceptance letter was still pinned to my bedroom wall when they cornered me in the kitchen. Stanford University. Full academic scholarship covering tuition, but I still needed money for housing, books, and living expenses. That's what the college fund was for. The $40,000 I'd been saving since I was 14, working every summer, every weekend, babysitting, tutoring, cleaning houses. Money I'd earned with blisters on my hands and exhaustion in my bones. Izzy, we need to talk, my mother said, but she wasn't looking at me. She was looking at my father, then at my brother Marcus, who was leaning against the counter with his arms crossed like he was preparing for battle. I knew that look. It was the same expression he'd worn when he convinced them to buy him a car for his 16th birthday while I rode the bus. The same smug confidence he'd had when they'd given him my bedroom because his was too small and moved me to the basement. What's this about? I asked, though something cold was already settling in my stomach. My father cleared his throat. Your brother has an opportunity. A business opportunity, my mother added quickly, like that made it more legitimate. Marcus straightened up, suddenly animated. It's this food truck concept, right? But not just any food truck. Gourmet fusion. Korean-Mexican. The profit margins are insane, Izzy. I could make 6 figures in the first year. I blinked. Okay, that's great for you. The thing is, my father continued, he needs startup capital. 40,000 to be exact. The kitchen went quiet except for the hum of the refrigerator. I looked from face to face, waiting for someone to laugh, to say it was a joke. No one did. You want my college fund, I said slowly. We want you to invest in the family, my mother corrected. Think about it, Mija. College is just 4 years, but this business could support all of us for decades. I got into Stanford. And that's wonderful, she said, her voice taking on that patronizing tone I hated. But Stanford will always be there. This opportunity won't. Marcus stepped forward. Look, I know it's a big ask, but I promise I'll pay you back. With interest. By the time you're ready for college, you'll have even more money. I'm ready for college now. I start in 3 months. Community college is just as good, my father said. You can transfer later. I stared at him. My father, who'd bragged to everyone at church about my acceptance letter, who'd told his co-workers his daughter was going to Stanford. Now he was suggesting community college like it was the same thing. You want me to give up Stanford for Marcus's food truck? I want you to think about what's best for the family, my mother said firmly. Your brother has vision. He has drive. This could change everything for us. What about my vision? My drive? Marcus scoffed. Come on, Izzy. You're going to study English literature. What kind of job are you going to get with that? Meanwhile, I'm talking about a real business. Real money. Books don't feed people, my father added. Food does. I looked around the kitchen at these 3 people who shared my blood, my name, my history. The same people who'd never missed one of Marcus's soccer games, but forgot about my academic awards ceremony. Who'd thrown him a huge graduation party, but told me we couldn't afford one for me. Who'd spent my entire life making it clear that his dreams mattered more than mine. So you're saying I should just give up college? We're saying you should be practical, my mother said. Marcus needs this opportunity now. He's 22. He can't wait. I'm 18. I can't wait either. You're young. You have time. There it was. The sentence that summed up my entire childhood. Marcus was urgent, important, time-sensitive. I was young, flexible, expendable. I thought about the nights I'd stayed up until 2 a.m. studying for AP tests while Marcus played video games. The weekends I'd spent working while he hung out with friends. The sacrifices I'd made, the social events I'd missed, the teenage experiences I'd given up. Also, I could earn that acceptance letter, that scholarship, that chance. When do you need an answer? I asked quietly. They exchanged glances. Well, my father said, the bank closes at 5 today, and Marcus needs to put down a deposit on the truck by tomorrow morning. Of course, because Marcus's timeline was the only one that mattered. I need to think about it. There's nothing to think about, my mother said, her voice getting sharper. This is family, Isabella. Family comes first. Unless you're selfish, Marcus added. Unless you think your little books are more important than your brother's future. I looked at him, really looked at him. This was the same brother who'd never held a job for more than 6 months, who'd dropped out of college twice, who'd asked my parents for money so many times they'd stopped keeping track. And now they wanted me to fund his latest scheme. You're right, I said finally. Family comes first. The relief on their faces was immediate. I'll go to the bank after school tomorrow and withdraw the money. My mother smiled and reached over to squeeze my hand. You're doing the right thing, Mija. You'll see. That night, I lay in my basement bedroom staring at the ceiling. The Stanford acceptance letter was in my desk drawer now, hidden away like something shameful. I thought about calling my best friend Lily, but what would I say? That my family had just stolen my future, and I'd said thank you? Instead, I pulled out my laptop and did something else. I researched. The next morning, I put on my best dress and drove to the bank. But I didn't go alone. Miss Vasquez, said Dr. Patricia Chin, the Stanford admissions counselor I'd called the night before. Are you sure about this? We were sitting in the bank manager's office. I'd asked her to meet me here, told her I had something important to discuss about my scholarship. She'd driven 3 hours from the university, concerned that one of their incoming students was in trouble. I'm sure, I said, but I want you to witness this. The bank manager, Mr. Rodriguez, looked confused. Miss Vasquez, you called yesterday asking to withdraw your entire college fund. Now you're here with. I'm sorry, who are you again? Dr. Patricia Chun, Stanford University admissions. Isabella contacted me because she's concerned about fraud. Fraud? Mr. Rodriguez's eyebrows shot up. I pulled out my phone and showed him the recording I'd made the night before. My family's voices filled the small office. Just tell them you changed your mind about college, my mother's voice said clearly. Tell them you want to support your family instead. And if they ask questions, that was my voice. They won't, Marcus replied. Rich people don't understand family loyalty anyway. My father's voice came next. The important thing is that no one finds out the money isn't really for you. If the university thinks you're backing out because of money problems, they might investigate the scholarship. What exactly would they investigate? My voice again. Well, my father said, hesitating. We may have adjusted some of the financial information on your application. The office went dead silent. Dr. Chen's face had gone pale. They lied on my financial aid forms, I said quietly. Understated their income, overstated our need. I didn't know until last night. Mr. Rodriguez was already pulling up files on his computer. Miss Vasquez, if what you're suggesting is true, this could be a federal crime. I know, I said. That's why I called Dr. Chin. And that's why I'm not withdrawing any money today. Instead, I did something else. Something I'd planned all night while lying in my basement bedroom, staring at the ceiling. I called the IRS tip line. You see, while researching the night before, I'd discovered something interesting about my father's business. The landscaping company he'd run for 10 years had been reporting significantly lower income than what I'd observed growing up. We'd never seemed poor, despite what those financial aid forms claimed. So I did what any concerned citizen would do. I reported suspected tax evasion. I also called the Department of Education's fraud hotline. Lying on financial aid applications is a federal offense, punishable by fines up to $20,000 and up to 5 years in prison. By the time I got home from school that day, there were already 2 cars in our driveway that didn't belong to us. My mother was crying at the kitchen table. My father was pacing back and forth, talking rapidly into his phone. Marcus was nowhere to be seen, which probably meant he was hiding in his room. Isabella, my mother said when she saw me. Thank God. You have to fix this. Fix what? These people, she gestured wildly at the 2 serious-looking individuals in suits who were sitting across from her. They're saying we committed fraud. They're saying you reported us. I set my backpack down carefully. I reported suspected fraud, yes. Because fraud is illegal. What have you done? My father demanded, ending his phone call. Do you have any idea what you've cost us? About the same as what you cost me, I imagine. One of the investigators, a woman with short gray hair, stood up. Miss Vasquez, I'm Agent Williams with the Department of Education. We need to ask you some questions about your family's financial situation and your scholarship application. Of course, I said. I'm happy to cooperate. The next few hours were a blur of questions, documents, and increasingly frantic phone calls from my parents' hastily hired lawyer. It turned out that my father had been understating his business income for years, not just on my financial aid forms, but on his tax returns as well. The IRS was very interested in the discrepancy between his reported income and his actual lifestyle. The pool in our backyard, for instance. The new cars every few years. The family vacations to Europe. Marcus finally emerged from his room around dinner time, looking like he'd been crying. "Izzy," he said, "you have to tell them this was all a mistake." "What was a mistake?" "The reporting thing. The investigation. Just tell them you were confused or angry or something." I looked at him, my brother, who'd spent his entire life believing he deserved everything while I deserved nothing. "I wasn't confused," I said. "I was educated. There's a difference." The final tally was impressive. My father owed $127,000 in back taxes and penalties. My parents faced federal charges for financial aid fraud. Their assets were frozen pending investigation. And Marcus? His food truck dream evaporated along with access to the family bank accounts. But the most beautiful part came 2 weeks later. Stanford called to offer me additional financial aid. Not because my family was poor, that had been a lie, but because I was now classified as an independent student due to my parents' legal troubles. The university wanted to make sure that their students' educations weren't derailed by family circumstances beyond their control. I got a full ride. Everything covered. I was packing for Stanford when Marcus knocked on my bedroom door. "Can I come in?" I looked up from my suitcase. "Sure." He sat on my bed, looking smaller than I'd ever seen him. "I'm sorry." "For what specifically?" "For everything, I guess. For acting like you didn't matter. For expecting you to give up your dreams for mine." I continued folding clothes. "Okay. That's it? Just okay." I turned to face him. "Marcus, for 18 years, you've been the center of this family. Every decision revolved around what was best for you. Every sacrifice was made to ensure your happiness. I was just the supporting character in your story." "That's not true." "When's my birthday?" He opened his mouth, then closed it. "What's my favorite subject?" Silence. "What's my middle name?" He looked away. "You don't know anything about me," I said quietly. "Not because you're stupid, but because you've never bothered to ask. I was never important enough for you to notice. I notice you now. Only because I'm no longer useful to you." The truth of it hung between us like a weight. Before I left for Stanford, I had one final conversation with my parents. They sat across from me in the living room, both of them looking older than they had just a month before. "We're proud of you," my mother said quietly. "We always have been. You have a funny way of showing it." My father shifted uncomfortably. "We thought we were doing what was best for the family. You were doing what was best for Marcus. There's a difference. He's your brother, and I'm your daughter. But you treated those things like they were mutually exclusive." They didn't have an answer for that. I left for Stanford on a Tuesday morning. As I put my suitcase in my car, I looked back at the house where I'd spent 18 years learning that I didn't matter. Marcus was watching from his bedroom window. My parents stood on the porch, looking lost. I didn't wave goodbye. At Stanford, I thrived. I made friends who valued my mind, professors who challenged my thinking, and discovered that I was capable of more than I'd ever imagined. I majored in economics with a minor in public policy, inspired by my experience with financial fraud to help others navigate systems designed to take advantage of them. 3 years later, I got a letter from Marcus. He'd finally gotten a job, working as a server at a restaurant, saving money to go back to school. He was applying for financial aid, legitimately this time, and wanted to know if I had any advice. I wrote back. I told him about resources for non-traditional students, about scholarships for people starting over, about the importance of building something on your own merit instead of taking it from others. I also told him something else, that I forgave him, but that forgiveness didn't mean forgetting. That he'd have to build a new relationship with me based on who we were now, not who we'd been forced to be as children. Last month, I graduated summa cum laude. My parents didn't come to the ceremony. Not because they weren't invited, but because they understood that this achievement was mine alone. Dr. Chun was there, though. The woman who'd driven 3 hours to witness my moment of truth at the bank. She'd become a mentor over the years, teaching me that standing up for yourself isn't selfish. It's necessary. "I'm proud of you," she said after the ceremony. "Thank you. For everything. You did this yourself, Isabella. You made the hard choice to value your own future." She was right. I had made a choice. Not just that day at the bank, but every day since. I chose to believe I was worth more than being someone else's sacrifice. I chose to fight for my dreams instead of surrendering them. I chose to build a life where my worth wasn't determined by how useful I was to other people. They'd called me selfish for wanting an education. They were wrong. I wasn't selfish. I was self-aware. And sometimes that's the most dangerous thing you can be.